The consequences of what's happening with woke in the military. I was in the military, and when I was in the Army, 101st Airborne, there was gays, there were lesbians, and we knew about it. We went out, we went to Nashville, we'd party, and we'd find out, God, this guy's this, she's this, he's both, she's both. Okay. But it wasn't like, hey, let's advertise it as you're a hero and you're a this. It was just, that's kind of where you were at, right? Versus today. Now, when you hear what...
You're talking about the don't ask, don't tell, right?
The don't ask, don't tell, yes. I'm from the don't ask, don't tell era. Today, it's the hero-making machine LGBTQ era. It's a different era we're part of today. John Kirby rejects bogus claims of woke policies dragging down Army recruitment. There is no wokeness in the military. This is what he said, right? An Army secretary concerned woke military criticism could hurt the service, right? This article just came out. I'll read this entire article to you on what's going on, where some are saying, well, the reason why recruitment is low is because of all the woke agenda and all the woke ideology. No, that's not the reason why people are not joining the Army. Army Secretary Christine Wormuth expresses concern about the negative impact of accusations of a woke military on recruiting efforts, stating, I hope that we do not see more of any of the kind of talk that's been out there in the past few days while Republican lawmakers and pundits criticize the military efforts towards diversity and inclusion. Wormuth clarifies that the Army is focused on being a ready Army, not a woke Army. She emphasizes that concerns about a woke military have not been a major challenge in recruiting. According to market research and a Defense Department survey, Wormuth acknowledges that some young Americans may be reluctant to join the Army due to the perception of its being woke, but highlights the importance of countering the negative rhetoric as it can have counterproductive effects on recruiting. She emphasizes the influence of news and social media on young Americans' perception. So is the Army and the military getting more woke, and is it negatively impacting recruiting?
This kind of reminds me of a non-commissioned officer many years ago who told me, and I think at the time I was a captain, Captain, I've never had intimate relations with anybody but an attractive woman, but I have changed my standards on occasion. My point is, I think Christine...
One too many drinks at night.
At 2 a.m., okay.
I think Christine Wormuth is living in fantasy world. I think that if you're a average 18, 19, 20-year-old man, single, guy who's even remotely athletic, who wants to be tested, wants to accomplish something in life, wants to join an elite organization, and he looks at what's presented to him in these commercials and what he sees, he says, thank you, but no thank you. I'll go somewhere else. I mean, as soon as we started telling everybody, and this started by the time, even in the 90s, and we saw it begin in the 70s, frankly. This is a long process of what I call rot. If you say that little Susie over there who weighs 90 pounds or 110 pounds is just as good as Bob, who's 6 feet tall and weighs 220, and she can do everything he can do and there's no difference, good, you're going to get a lot of Susies, but you're not going to get the other guy. Saying that, well, there's no reason why they can't be in combat. I had an exchange with a senator when I testified before the Senate Armed Services Committee, Air-Land Subcommittee. And he said, well, Colonel McGregor, I don't hear you mention women on the battlefield very much. Are you opposed to women in combat? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, why is that? I said, 5,000 years of recorded military history. You can imagine that didn't go over very well. You can force whatever you want on federal forces. You can. But the people that are going to show up and fight effectively for you will not stay. They'll leave. I can guarantee it. It's true for the Marine Corps. It's true in the Army. I can't speak for the Navy and the Air Force, although I saw recent comments from this man, General Brown, C.Q. Brown, who's supposed to be the next chairman, who is talking about too many white people, too many white pilots. We need more non-whites and so forth. I'm sure that will have a deleterious impact on the Air Force. But maybe it's not as noticeable. Years ago, I had to put together a study. I was on active duty to look at the impact of various experiences and problems in militaries, and I came across the French Army between the years of 1850 and 1871, and everyone thought in 1870 when the French army met the Prussians and their allies that the French army would effectively annihilate the Prussians. Prussians had almost no serious combat experience in their judgment. They'd only fought a 6-week war against the Austrians. That wasn't serious in their view. And the French, they'd fought Mexicans, they'd fought Berbers, they fought the Russians in the Crimea, and they were going to be very effective and so forth. And what happened was the exact opposite. The Prussians utterly annihilated them. The point is that the rot that undermines discipline, leadership, capability can go on for years without notice until suddenly you're thrown into the buzzsaw and you have to fight. Then everything that was previously unidentified or concealed comes to the fore. That happened to the British in 1914. It happened to them again in 1940. You have to look carefully at these social programs and policies and the standards of discipline. And if they're not high enough and they don't work, you can't brush them aside. You may get by if you're just going to occupy a forward operating base and you're fighting an enemy that has almost no capability. And let's face it, the people we faced in Afghanistan and Iraq had very little capability. They might be able to get off an occasional mortar or rocket, but most cases they had to depend on remotely detonated mines, what we call IEDs, and they had AK-47s and RPGs. And, frankly, we had everything. We had absolutely devastating artillery, devastating air power, so there was never any question as to who was going to dominate and who was going to win. You had, frankly, something similar in Vietnam. We always had overwhelming firepower that could come in and crush the opponent. He just couldn't put it together rapidly enough and effectively enough. Well, those days are over. And if we are going to fight someone like the Russians or the Chinese or any of these other countries, we have to come to terms with the reality that they do not implement woke programs. They're not interested in that. They're not interested in making people feel good. They're interested in forces that can fight. Soldiers exist to do one thing, to fight and kill the enemy. That's it. Now, they can do a lot of other things, but that's the preeminent purpose of the whole structure. We've lost sight of that. We lost sight of it a long time ago.
Yeah, when you think about that, and you see a speech that Putin gives, and he says the West, America, is trying to get their military to be woke. He uses it in his own words. And he says, we're not compromising our values and principles. Here's what we're all about. We're about defending, Russia. And you see the applause it gets from the audience. There's thousands of people out there. By the way, when is the last time we got a message like that from our current president defending America, what a great nation it is and what it stands for, our values and principles? That you can take the same exact message Putin gave, and Biden's done this a few times before, where he takes messages from other people around the world and he uses that. His writers can literally take that, put it in ChatGPT, and say, change it up a little bit to make it sound like Joe Biden. Put it on the teleprompter. If he gave that message, you know what the American people would do? They would lose their mind. They would applaud. They say, oh my God, who is this guy? But we are not given the pro-America message. We are given the let's confuse the hell out of everybody message where nobody knows who's a hero today, where we once did know what a hero was. Today, we don't know what a hero is.
Happy 4th of July to you. We have a special event that's coming up with Tom Brady, Mike Tyson, and Will Guidara in Miami, Vol Conference. It'll be August 30th to September 2nd. This weekend for 4th of July, we're running a special. Buy one, get one free. Bring your spouse, bring your business partner, bring your running mate. If you haven't yet registered, click on a link below or above. Get registered. Looking forward to spending 3 days with you in Miami.